It's a little bit crazy. You're suddenly blurry now. I wonder if anything was real. All our history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
You tell me that you're sorry, and we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
And shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm Elder Michael Johnson, the pastor over here with the Lost Sheep of Israel and with King James Bible University. And today we're going through an extremely interesting teaching. But before we do have a couple of announcements that we got to take care of before we get started. And the same as we started last week, we was letting people know that this baptism is already on the way. And one thing I do want to thank people for is people that will be participating, and the same as of on yesterday. We had a few people who was baptized, and it's a real good feeling. I'm just want to tell you, just a real good feeling when you just not baptizing new people in, but the best thing is when you have your own blood and they was once your sibling in the flesh, but now they also your sibling and your fellow worker in the spirit. And I've had the honor to condemn one of the flesh and one of my own blood brothers. And it was feel really good now that not only on this side, but also on the side to come. It's really a good feeling. I do want to let people also know on baptism that is going on in Savannah. You're going to receive some information, and we're going to actually have a meeting right after this teaching here. It's going to be immediately happening right after this, and you can see it down in the description area where you can go into there. And this is mainly not just to be nosy. It's for people who are actually going to be attending the baptism. But we do know some people are going to be nosy, just trying to come back there to see. But the main thing is for people who's looking to come to the baptism and to participate, to make sure we know who everybody is and making sure everything can go as planned. And one of the other ones that we still going to be doing, and as I told people before, and we're going to be looking at that, and we're going to be pushing out a book at the beginning of the year. And this is Painted, the truth about Jews who are not. And the reason why, and people try to push and get on all these other bandwagons about what's going on with Kyrie, and now you have some of these same guys backing away because they didn't know all these people was going to back up Kyrie now. But the main thing is, the problem with those brothers there, they don't be having something to stand on, because all they doing is talking on hearsay. This is the purpose of this book. The book is to where they can perfectly go in there. It's because anytime you sit with any person who's saying that they are the people, and they want to hold to it, and especially calling themselves Jewish, and to prove that they're not the people, all they're going to need is this, and once they educate themselves on this, all the scriptures are there to show them how to walk it properly through there, to show them they're not the people. But you have a lot of them, they keep pushing this ideology on what's going on. So we got to shut all this down, and this is going to help you shut it down. The same as you had the other guy, he put out a movie which it has a ton of errors in it, but that's what he used. And since he used it, he got a lot of backlash. But if he would have went properly and showed them, no, let's open up the book, and the book will tell you who we are, and it'll tell you who you are. So he chose not to do it, but we're going to do this for everyone else and make sure this will happen. So with that, you will be seeing this book coming forward. But as we're looking at this here, we're looking at this one here, and we came to a point where we have to find out some things, and most of us has found out that we had entered into some deep, deep water in these past few weeks. And if you've been following me this far, you didn't came so deep. If you go back up, you're going to drown. That I promise you. So the only way you can keep getting better understanding, you have to just keep going down. That's what's happening right now, and that's what we have to do. So as we're going to continue to go deeper in, but we're going to clear up a lot of things today, because one of the biggest controversial things, and people can't quite put their finger on, is the Spirit of God. What is it really? What is it really? And the main thing is, we're going to find out real early what it is, but we're going to see how this actually just tears down all walls, show all falsities that is taught out there, and show you why there's so many books out there and they can't explain and can't put their finger on it. So I just want to make sure that everybody ready, because we already in deep water, but we got to go deeper. We got to go deeper, and then they got to prepare us. Why we have to do this one is preparing us for the next city, because come to find out, I already knew it was going on. We got to go back and get some of our other people, because we got some people still in Ephesus. we got to get them. We can't leave them there because they went with us, so we all got to go together. We all have to go together. So we're going to start going through a lot of different things, and we got to let everybody roll with us. So if you over here, you want to roll with us, we want you to roll with us also. So we're going to take you with us. So I'm going to get ready to where we're going to look at this, and we got to look at this in a whole different way. So we need to get our mindset a certain way, because what we got to do is we have to look at this, and more so, I have to push it more so in a lecture type format on this one, to where we can really get in this, and we're going to find out early what's going on. But boy, well, it's going to be some things going on, because once we open up this one, I'm going to tell you right now, when the Most High is sitting there going to hold you responsible for what you know, He going to hold you responsible. So don't come tell anything. Tell me, Lord, I did not know. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to start letting this cat out the bag. But cause we got to find out what's going on, and we all ready today. But what we want to do, Al, we want to look at something. We want to look at something real close and up close and personal. And we're going to go over here to Matthew. We're going to start right there. We're going to pinpoint right there. And we're going to look at this. And with that, we got to find out something, because it's telling us in Matthew chapter 10, verse 19, it says, but when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. Excuse me. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that, because it's going to clear it up in verse 20. And then we're going to have a little bit of a conversation. It says, for it is not ye that speak it, but the Spirit. We got a problem. We all got a problem. You know, people be sitting there like, Elder Johnson, you set me up. No, I ain't setting you up. We set up ourselves. So we got caught up here right at the beginning, but we're going to clear everything up. So it's not that you going to speak, but it's the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. Some of y'all going to meet in Savannah. Yeah, I'm telling you. We all going to be committed. And the main thing is what we doing here. So when we deliver it up, and some people going to hate you just for what you know. And they're going to hate you, and even unto death, because for the name, understand what I'm saying? For the name, for the way of Christ. Just for that alone. So don't think something that you are, well, when they pull me in here, I got to think of something, what to say. No, that's not for you to do that. And let's look at something in Matthew chapter 5, verse 3, and we're going to pull this back over. It says, blessed, wisdom is given are the poor in spirit. You with me? Wisdom is given to the poor in spirit. For there is a kingdom of heaven. Yeah. And you that's what you want to be part of. Because the poor is the lacking, the humble, the needy. That's what it's getting us into. And it's going to tell you what you're going to say and what you need to do. So when you look at this, it says, for it is not that ye speak, but the Spirit of your Father which is speaking in you. So we know this. Now we know a couple of things, because when we see this, it's the Spirit, it's the Father that's in you should speak. And it's a unique statement how the Father is in. Again, we got to go back to this in, what we've been on for a while. But when you say in, it's the influence by the person of authority, which is the Spirit, and it's coming from God that is in you. Now, we got to understand what it is, because knowledge equals power. And the power equals knowledge. Knowledge is the word. And the word is the Spirit, and the Spirit of God is inside you. And then you have the Creator power speaking through you, and it's in you, and that same you should never consult. And that's the reason why I push you all the time. Do not consult other books. He's not going to reference another book. That make it seem like God is not what he is. That's why he said, don't you sit there thinking what you going to speak. Because what you going to speak, he's going to give it to you. And the only one can give it to you is him. Let's look at something. Let's go over here now. We're going to see something and get a better understanding. It says, for out of the ground, the Spirit of God to grow every tree that is pleasant in thy sight. That's Genesis chapter 2, verse 9. But we're going to tear some of this down to get a better understanding here. Pleasant in thy sight, it says, is good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, so it's amongst the garden, in the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Clear. The reason this is clear, because we're going to find out a couple of things. Because out of the ground did not the Spirit of God grow, increase every elder that is present in thy sight. That's what that's telling you right there. Think about that. Think about it, understand it. It says, which is good for food. So the tree, foundationally, we're going to understand a couple of things. Foundationally, when it's talking about a tree, everybody knows it's talking about elders and wise men. That's what it's talking about. But we're going to find out when you're seeing that spiritually, because that's what that's saying. But we want to know what it's saying foundationally. Foundationally, not spiritually a foundation saying elders and wise men. Foundationally, it's talking about the living thing with knowledge, the root. The living thing with knowledge, the root. And it has knowledge of the path. That's your key. This is your key. This is why I said we're going to be going through a whole lot of different places. And this is why I need you to keep that understanding there, because this tree, this knowledge of the path of life, which is among the garden, but there's another one there also. It's another tree. It's another tree, another living thing there that has this knowledge of a path. But this knowledge of a path is good, and they're going to mix it up with some evil. Meaning it's going to mix it up with some errors. That's what it's going to mix it up with. And as we see this, and we see over here in Genesis chapter 2, verse 17, you're going to see the errors he's going to mix in there with you. We're going to see it. And it says, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not learn of it, for in that day thou learnest thereof, thou shalt surely die. We don't supposed to mix it. We don't supposed to mix anything. But the problem is we like to get mixed up with all these things. In the mix, anytime you mix anything, either the same thing, if you want cold water, you make it colder. You want hot water, you get hot. But if you do anything, you take cold water and you mix it with hot water, you're going to come warm. You see the analogy? Being lukewarm, a little hot, a little cold, just right. And you learn of that, you will surely die. You're going to surely die. In fact, I want to show you something to where we can start getting a better understanding on this. In 1 Corinthians, in chapter 5, Paul, they're telling you this, and we want to understand that. In 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 6, it says, your glorifying is not good. The reason why, when some people thinking they have the knowledge of good and evil, just because you have that and you glorifying that is not good. Because knowing that ye doing things like this, it says, know ye not that a little leaven, you're putting just a little bit of cold water in hot, leaveneth the whole lump. So when people teaching you those types of contrary things, telling you, it'll leaven the whole thing. It's not that you can put just a couple of pieces of ice in some hot water. It's going to leaven everything because it's going to make it warm. It's no longer hot. It's now warm. In fact, it helps us out even when we go to Isaiah. And Isaiah is going to explain a little bit more in detail for us to help us out to where we can clear up a lot of these issues. In Isaiah chapter 5, but we're going to look at verse 20. In verse 20, it's telling us a couple of things that we need to know. 1 second. I don't know why these here. Okay. And it's still, let me see. There we go. It says, woe unto them that call evil good. Because you're going to take some evilness and you're going to mix it with good and still sitting there talking about, well, I'm telling you what's right and what's wrong. It makes no sense. The same thing taking saying we're going to teach you guys how to recognize a authentic $100 bill, but we're going to look at the false ones too, to where you can see what's going on. But they don't know false ones constantly keep changing. Keep changing. So you can't really detect what's going on. But if you just study the authentic one, anytime a false one comes, you'll know it. But people still, no matter what, they're going to tell you these things. They're going to tell you things they're going to call good and evil good. And it's telling you right there, it says evil good and good evil. That put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. This is what we do. This is what goes on. But then they'd still tell you they have this spirit. They'll still tell you, I have the Spirit of God. These things I want you to keep in mind because we got to understand what this spirit is. They'll tell you, we have the Spirit of God, and they're teaching you these things. Let's go a little bit down and look at something. We're going to put this up in Exodus. In Exodus, we're going to see this in chapter 35, and we're going to mosey down to 31. In 31, it's making something that is clear here. He's going to be telling us what it is the entire time. But some of us should have already figured out what I'm saying, but we're going to get more blunt as we go. It says, and he had filled him with the Spirit of God. So if you're going to be filled with the Spirit of God, I want you to clearly understand what this is saying. Anyone going to be filled with the Spirit of God, it's going to tell you what they're going to have. You're going to be filled in wisdom, not sitting there telling you anything contrary outside of the Bible. It's going to fill you with an understanding, not sitting there, oh, we got to go look this up in the dictionary. We got to go look this up in a strong concordance. We got to do some hermeneutics. We got to do some exegesis. No. You don't do that. It's telling you right here. It's going to fill you with wisdom, and it's going to fill you with understanding. With those two alone, you will also going to be in knowledge, knowing that you don't never ever need to go to a dictionary period to try to find out what you need to know, because the King James Bible is a dictionary, a commentary, and a Bible all rolled up into one. But if you don't have God's wisdom, who wrote the book, you don't have his understanding when he put it in the book, then you don't have the knowledge that all this information is there. Common sense. Is common sense in this workmanship. It'll tell you. It says, and in all manner of workmanship. Did it say some? No, it's all manner of workmanship. And why are you saying that? We're going to see some of this working to just get a little bit closer. And this is why it's so important. And I say it all the time. That's why it's so important to watch who you learn from. I tell you that, but people say, well, I don't know. Yeah, you learn from somewhere else. They tell you, well, G35, 40, yeah, you go over there and do those. You go do those. And you'll see why you get so caught up. And in fact, I can show you how to tear them down. But we got to look at this. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, picking up at verse 4, it says, now there are diversities in gifts. These gifts is of the Spirit, what he's saying with the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. It's gifts to those. Because it's going to tell you, it's going to say, but the same Spirit. So we know those gifts is what is basically working within you and working through you. So when he sit there and say, when you get ready and they're going to try to put you to death for something that they just hate you for, don't you say a word, because these gifts are in you and you're going to speak. But when you speak, you're not speaking of yourself. You speaking of me who is in you, going to be giving you those words to tell these people. And it's a diversity in them. It's right there. In fact, he goes on more in verse 5. There are differences of administrations. That's why it says in wisdom and understanding and knowledge. There are differences of administration, but the same creator. It's the same God, same Father. But it goes on a little bit more. It goes on more. Including there are diversities of operations. So now, even in the operations, in the wisdom and the understanding and the knowledge, how you need to put them and how you need to make sure they can get it and they can comprehend it. You have to take some precepts and take it around another way and show it and present it a whole nother way. The diversity is operations, but the same God, which worketh all in all. Interesting, isn't it? It gets better as we go down. It gets better. And this is where people start having problems. It says, but the manifestation, the being made known of the Spirit, is given to every man to profit withal. It's not given to every man who's sitting there just saying, I'm just going to teach the Bible, going to cemeteries, whatever you want to call them. We got a guy out there now. He's a jail guy who come out of jail, and now he think he's this high class expert on the Bible, teaching Trinity. Stupidity. And thinking he's profiting. We see this here and we want to understand it. It says, for one is given by the Spirit of the word of wisdom. What he said right over there. You're going to get the word of wisdom. To the others, the word of knowledge. Excuse me. The word of knowledge, telling you that. It's telling you this right up front. But it's telling you the word of knowledge by the same identical Spirit. It's one. The same identical Spirit. Not the ones where they're going to tell you to be subservient to flesh. Oh, well, you do this for the pastor. You do this for him. You do that for him. You be subservient to him. He's your shepherd. That's a fool, stupid, idiotic doctrine. You have them doing this across the globe. These men come in there and people falling at their feet as if this man is God. He's given this man wisdom. He gave him knowledge, but it's the same Spirit that's speaking through this man. But it gets better. It says to another faith, the desires of the expected outcome that he's going to be teaching you on. By the same Spirit to another, the gifts of healing. You got people sit there, oh yeah, I go in here and I do this and I do that. I lay hands on them and they just get up and really. It's interesting, highly interesting. And if you don't know what the Bible is, how in the world that happened? I want you to think about that. You got people to tell you that. I done did this and don't know the Bible itself. And then they'll tell you, I go lay hands on people and I heal I done healed a lot of people. Interesting. The reason this becomes so interesting, and they don't know the Bible. As soon as you sit there and ask them something about the Bible, they can't tell you nothing about God, but they can tell you everything that they can do as a manifestation of God. No, you can show a manifestation of Satan, but not of God. It's in, but the healing of the same Spirit. The same Spirit. Let's look at this a little bit closer. To another, the working of miracles. To another, prophecy. You got people sitting out there. Same way I was just talking about that guy. They tell you about all these prophecies. All the prophecies right there in the Bible. But they'll tell you, we're going to tell you of a new prophecy. Really? That's interesting. The reason this becomes so interesting because people will always try to put themselves on another pedestal to show that to you, look at me. I'm a man of God and I'm telling you something that nobody knows. Because God told me. Really? I didn't know you was better than Moses. To another, discerning the spirits. This is where it gets a lot of people. The discerning the spirits. The interesting thing is, I tell people all the time, they'll sit there and some of them, they look to protect me in certain ways and they say certain things. They, hey man, you need to watch this. But they don't know the Spirit already discerned it from the beginning. The problem is you have to let those things play out. You have to. You have to know what the purpose is. And if you don't know what the purpose is, you have to let it play out. And God is the only one who knows the heart. So God deals with the heart. You can discern that spirit and what that spirit is about. You have to see if it's going to change. Is God going to change it or is God going to let it play out? We don't know. So I think is discern the spirit, but don't sit there and get in God's business. So I let them play out. But just to help everybody, don't think I'm boo-boo. When we talk, when we speak. Don't think I'm boo-boo and I don't know what you're about. Because I'm not. I just let it play out. I treat you the same as I treat anybody else. But that's the difference on learning to discern the spirits. To another, divertize the tongue. And you know the different ways of these customs, these truths. To another, the interpretations of the tongues. This is what happens. This is why it gets so serious. And you see this here, and it says, but in all these worketh that one, including self-same Spirit. Right over here. He fills you with the Spirit of God in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, in all manner of workmanship. This is what he do. Dividing to every man severally as he will. So he can give you one, or he can give you many, or he can give you all. That's up to him. It's not up to you. It's up to him. So this thing we have to understand on why it goes on this way and why it happens. And it become to where same as becoming one with Christ. This is why we looking at baptism the certain way. We want to do these certain things because you want to become one with Christ. As in comparison, when a woman marries a man, you have to look at it the same identical way. He try to show you physically to where you can physically see it on what you're trying to physically get in the spirit. So this comparison when a woman marries a man, and then they also become no longer two. They becomes one, which meaning the same thing. When you become one, you got to get rid of that name. We're not going to operate under two names, meaning two ways. You're going to operate under one. And if you want to operate under two, then it's no reason to be married because you still want to operate under two names. Two ways. They'll do things to where they want to hyphenate it. Why you want to do that? Because you still, if it sit there and God said, I want you to come and I'm gonna call you Israel, are you gonna hyphenate that? No, you gonna I'm getting rid of it. Okay, the same thing. The same identical thing. In fact, I want to show you something just to make sure we all on the same page here. In Genesis chapter 35 and verse 10, it's going to show you something, makes it pretty clear for us to help us out. It said, and this is Jehovah speaking, and God said unto him, thy way is Jacob. Your way is Jacob. You surplant and remove. That's what you're about. You surplant and remove. This is who you are. This is your way. But it said, thy name, thy way shall not be called, appointed, anymore Jacob. You're not going to be called that no more. But Israel, Jehovah's servant, shall be thy way. To being the servant of God, to being the servant of God is now your way. In he called, he appointed, and he named his name, his way, Israel. It don't say you're going to be called Israel Jacob hyphenated Israel. This is why I sit there and I tell people that, but when you see it, you actually blaspheming God when you say you love God. Because he tried to show you things physically, but when he show you things physically, I'm hyphenating my name. Really? That's interesting. You want two men in the same house. You want two spirits in the same house. You can look at it any kind of way you want, but people say, well, but I'm the only daughter. Okay, ain't no but. Then you shouldn't have never got married. But, we don't, it's not no buts. You want to put a but as an excuse. So we have to look at this, and this is why you sit there and you see these things that's happening. But you see, Jacob was done. Israel is the way. And then what happens when you go that way, then you have people start messing with God's people. This is one of the problems. This is one of the biggest problems that we have. And let's start pulling some of this down and get a better understanding on what's happening here. We'll find this over here in Matthew chapter 18, but we're going to pick it up at verse 5. And we're going to find out, once you pick up that name and you want to become this prospect for God, you want to sit there and you want to say, I'm going to endure this to the end. Now, we want to understand what's happening, because once you become married, and when you're dealing with the spirit and you're not dealing with flesh, this is actually said from spirit. This, what we got highlighted, says from spirit. It says, and who shall receive one such little child in my way receiveth me. That was deep. We're going to find out what all this is as we go down. So if you receive the spirit of knowledge and the spirit of wisdom and all this of Christ, you receive it him. And you become in one with God as one that's married to Christ. So what you end up doing, you're going to turn a lot of things from your wicked ways, because this is what we do. We have to understand all this together to make sure we doing the one thing with Christ, because the main thing is we have to remember when we become one and we want to operate as two, as some people still like to do. They want to operate as two. And he's telling you right up front. In Jeremiah chapter 3, looking at verse 14, it says, turn, O backsliding children, saith the Spirit of God, for I am married unto you. I'm married to you. This is what he's telling you right up front. I'm married unto you. He goes on more. He says, I will take one of a city and two of a family and bring you to Zion. So the spirit of knowledge is making it clear that our lifestyles, living according to the ways that we want to believe, we have to live according to the ways of Christ. Not as our fathers that we was born from this earth from. That was good from the earth, not for the Spirit of God. So our name, our way, is now the similitude, has to be the similitude is which is in heaven, which is JEHOVAH. So with this, we have people who such in this world, and then they see as this what we said here. He says, be received as a little child. And we got to understand what this little child, because this little means valued. So this such valued child. So this valued way of life. That's all it's saying. This valued child. This valued way of life. One such valued way of life. This new fruit. This new fruit that popped up on the tree. And is taken the name, the way that accepted Christ. You see, we getting ready to come into our issue. It's leading us there, but we got to understand it's the same as in heaven, the same as in earth. This is what we have to make a similitude of. So we having people, and we having women who have seen as old, and they dead to the law according to the ways of the Spirit. So with this knowledge, the spirit of knowledge, and we have that according to the flesh, by taking on the body of Christ who received him, these also he received. So now there's a way of their husband. This is why I also tell people, you never know what's attached to that woman. And if you attach to the wrong one, you got a problem. And the same thing is, what women know and what a lot of women see, they see it different. Because if you see this woman without her husband, most women don't want to say it, but her name is, they'll say, Mr. I take for me, Mr. Michael Johnson. That's my wife's name. When you don't see me, that's her. They'll say, yeah, this is Michael Johnson. This is Mrs. Michael Johnson. That's what they would say. Because that's my way. It's representing something. It won't say, this is Mrs. in her name, Johnson. Because her way is of her husband. The same way our way is supposed to be of our husband, JEHOVAH. The same thing, no difference. Identically the same. So when you see this, we understand what's happening. So when you come in that name, you come in the way of your father. And it's according to that way. And then if you come in the way of your husband, and somebody do something, now you got a problem. Because they coming in the way of your husband. And it's going to tell you this, where it gets serious. This is why Christ is so serious about this. It says, but who shall offend one of these valued ones who believe in me? It is better for him that a millstone were hung about his neck and he were drowned in the deepest of the sea. Tell you a little secret. That ain't gonna work. It's a good start, but that ain't gonna work. Because he's telling you right up front, you mess with this one, that this one done took on my name, and you decide you're gonna offend them, you got a problem. You have a problem. This is where these women even receive pushback from their peers. However, you need to think about that. You need to think about that. You mess with one of them, you have a problem. And see, offend means you're going to sin against them. You're going to be doing those children of God wrong. He said, you do something to that one now that then took on my name. They don't have their name. See, they came in JEHOVAH. They came in the name of JEHOVAH, and you did them wrong. Okay, I got something for you. It's the same thing with hyphenation. Hyphenation, you don't know who you are. That's why confusion is still there. That's why a lot of times people can go places, and with these women who hyphenate their name, confusion will still be there. Why? Because confusion should be there. You hyphenated your name. You remove one to take on the other. You with God, you'll do it, but then when he's trying to show you the similitude, no, you want to hyphenate it. Why? Because you're thinking of your own ways. And this was mainly pushed by black women. Most people don't want to tell you that, but that's where the strongest push came from. And we see this confusion here, and something you'll never want to get caught up. And let me show you something now. Well, let's look at something. And we're looking at this spirit to understand what's happening in Revelation chapter 3. But we're going to pick this up at verse 15. And he's telling you this. It says, I know thy works, and thou art. We're going to come back to that. Thou neither art cold nor hot. I got to come back to that. The reason why, because it's saying art, A-R-T, and it's according to the beauty and perfection, meaning it says thou art neither. So the beauty and perfection, you neither of them. Neither of those. He said, I know thy works. I know them. And thou art neither cold nor hot. You lukewarm. It says, I would thou were hot or cold. He wants you either hot or cold. Be one or the other. Be one or the other. And he says this here in verse 16. It says, so then because thou art, see, in perfect beauty, art, A-R-T, imperfection, since you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I'll spew you out of my mouth. My name, Catherine B.C. Oh, really? That's I hyphenated my name. Okay. You lukewarm. He's going to spew your butt right out because you're trying to do the same similitude that is in heaven. You want to try to assimilate the same thing that is in the earth. And when you choose to hyphenate, you broke it. Simple. Straightforward. No chasers behind it. And those he spew out. We say, well, that's no big deal. Oh, yeah, it is. It's a huge deal because he's telling you right there. He's letting you know exactly what you're doing. So these little ones, these value ones, and that ones mean choices, these ones, the choices, who believe in coming to him, has taken on the spirit of knowledge of JEHOVAH and converted themselves using the knowledge as coming unto his little ones. That's why he's telling you this. In fact, let's look at verse 3. I want you to show you something over here. Matthew chapter 18, verse 3 says this. It says, I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as valued children. That's serious. Ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. If you don't come this way, then you're not getting in. Now people say, well, but ain't no but. You but all day. You're going to butt your way right to the lake of fire. Because you're going to always try to say, I'm going to come in on my terms. I'm going to come in on my way. That's fine. You're going to go right to the lake of fire on your way. That's what's going to happen to many of us. That's why people sit there and always ask me, and I don't get it as much as anymore. But I tell you, but I'm very upfront about it. Everybody is not going to make it. Because no matter what, you're going to put your flesh somewhere in the way. But, okay, go ahead. But, go ahead. Do what you got to do. I'm only here to warn you. That's it. I'm not here to tell you, no, you need to do, no. You do what you need to do. You do whatever floats your boat. Because this thing is a serious thing. And if he's coming as a little one, right there, you can convert. And then these ones who they sacrifice. So they establish a covenant with Christ. These are the people that people want to start offending them. The best thing, and the same as messing with a woman who has a husband and you don't know who he is. And just to even tell you a short 20-second story, I seen this happen because I actually knew the guy. We just didn't know the guy was this way. But it was about 15 years ago. And this man was messing with his wife. He didn't know the guy. I knew the guy, but we found out. And then he left. And he went to the park. And shot the guy right there in the park. Dead. The guy who he shot was a cop who was messing with his wife. Plastered all over the news. Then me and a couple of friends, we called him. We couldn't believe it was him because he's not like that. But just to show you, you never know who you messing with and what's attached to them. And that was an offense. And he was the judge, jury, and executor right there on the spot. So that's why it's so important. The same thing, when you offending one of his little ones, you messing with the biggest, baddest thing that created all things. You messing with him. And thinking you're going to get away with it. In fact, I want to show you something. We're going to look at this back over in Matthew. In Matthew chapter 25, in verse 40. It's going to tell us something there. He says, including the king shall answer and say unto them, verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of these least, one of them little ones, of these of my brethren, ye have done it unto me. See, these are the kind of conversations you don't need to have. Because he's telling you, you did them? No, you wasn't doing, you did this to me. In fact, let's find out some of this here. In 1 Peter, we're going to find out that there. 1 Peter chapter 4, we're going to pick this up right here in verse 14. We're going to find this out right now. Because this is what they're going to do. Just because you had a word of Christ. And it says, providing ye be reapproached. Exactly the point in the problem. You be reapproached. And they're going to reapproach you in many different ways. You're going to be reapproached as blaspheme. You're going to be despised. Blaspheme, they're going to lie on you. To get you in hurt. To get you in trouble. They're going to blaspheme you. You see this happening with Kyrie. Kyrie didn't say a word. But you see other men saying he said these things. And he didn't say nothing. They blasphemed on this man. And so don't think that you won't be reapproached for the way of Christ. It's telling you for the name of Christ, for the way of Christ. But he's saying, happy are ye. You're going to be in a bad position, but you know they lying on you because you haven't did anything. It says, for the spirit of glory, including of God, resteth upon you, because it's going to be in you. And there, on their part, he's evil spoken of. They think you scum of the earth. Scum, they're going to sit there and tell you you are scum of the earth. They just might not say it to your face, but everybody else, you are scum of the earth to them. But on your part, he's glorified. So you taking this stand and you sitting there like, man, why, what's the trip? It's no trip. They hate God. They'll sit there and say how much they love God, but they really hate God. And you see a lot of people have this problem. A lot of people have this problem. And the problem is when you blaspheme and then the spirit of knowledge and then you're going through this glory, God's greatness, His strength, and His power. Because you got to suffer this. You're going to suffer these things. but the Spirit of God resting upon you. But what people should be able to figure out, their ways are the ways of Christ, not the ways of flesh. That's the difference. And you'll see some of this picks up here. We're going to drop down to verse 17. It says, "For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God." On you. You the temple. It has to. So don't think it's a strange thing when it comes to you, because it has to happen to you. So don't trip on this. It gets on. It says, including it, if it first began at us, it's coming to you first. What shall the end be for them that obeyed not the message of God? See, he said he gave us something, and I want to show you that also. I want to show you that, and we're going to put it all together. In John chapter 1, we're going to look at verse 12. And you see right here what he did, because he said he's going to rest with you. It says, "But as many as received him, and these received him as little children," we believe on him. And he says, as many as received him, to them gave he power to become servants of God, even them that believed on his way. Peter said, "But what is that?" Let me show you what it is. Let's look at what it is. Let's just open up the can of worms and see what all this is in Acts chapter 1 in verse 8. And you see Christ is still speaking. And it says, "But ye shall receive power." What is this? He just told us that power. We want that. I want the power. I want power. Okay, we're going to get the power. "After that the Holy Ghost, the separated body, come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me in both Jerusalem and all Judea, and including Samaria, and unto the uttermost parts of the earth." We're here. We're here. This is the thing we dealing with. So we these witnesses, we these living testimonies in Jerusalem. However, many of us is not going to receive the spirit of knowledge, even obey the gospel or the message. So God is not even making any one of them members of the body of Christ. That's why they tell you, we this, and they not anything. They picking and choosing what is right, and they picking and choosing what is wrong. This is what a lot of us do. A lot of us do that. In fact, drop down to verse 18 in 1 Peter. Let's tell you this. It says, "Including if the righteous scarcely be saved," if the righteous scarcely, the ones who actually know the truth, scarcely be saved, where should the ungodly, including the sinner, appear? The ones who sitting there saying they got it, once saved, always saved, trinities, raptures, they teaching you all this kind of silly stuff, and then they try to pound it into you. Ungodly and sinners, where are they going to appear? And the righteous going to scarcely be saved. Let's look at that analogy real quick. We're going to see something. Because many of the righteous going to be righteous in their own eyes. But I want you to understand something on what each and every one of us have to look at as we pulling down on what's happening here. In Ezekiel, he's saying this in Ezekiel chapter 33. And I want you to make sure you really get what he's talking about when we come to the text in verse 13. It says, "And when when I shall say to the righteous that's scarcely going to be saved, that he will surely live if he trusts to his own righteousness," sitting there, "Well, I know I can do it this way, but, okay, your own righteousness, and commit iniquity, his righteousness shall not be remembered." No, you but too much. Every time you turn, but, I told you, get that out your butt. Well, what about this? Okay, go ahead. Do it. See, that's my thing. I'm going to keep enduring to this other way. You do what you do, I do what I do. Because some people are not looking for the truth. Some people are trying to think they can get in lukewarm. Some people believe they can get in on mammon and spirit. Some people believe flesh and blood can inherit the kingdom of God. Some people believe that flesh can please God. Some people believe the things they see is the things hoped for. Some people believe when they go to these buildings, this is the place on where you need to learn those things. They trust in their own righteousness and commit iniquity. His righteousness shall not be remembered. But the iniquity, if you done did something the wrong way, but for his iniquity he have committed, he shall die for it. You're going to die for that. Period. These are zero-sum games. Many people are going to die behind that. So if the righteous scarcely going to be saved, then where you think the ones who picking and choosing what is righteous? What is righteous? Is your righteousness is righteous in the eyes of God? No. Our righteousness is as a filthy rag. Thinking we can pick and choose what we want. Our righteousness is so bad, we sit there and we just believe, well, we can do it this way, we can do it that way, and it'll be okay. That's not what he's saying. His ways is not your ways, and your ways is not his ways. His ways is higher than your ways, and your ways is lower than anyone's ways. Our ways is from the ground. But it's telling you something that still goes back when someone takes on that spirit. Fleshly works, as never forget, fleshly works is ungodly, which is sin. So again, a sinner will appear before. Meaning when it's telling you before God, it's saying where would a sinner appear? And then you're talking about before God, in the presence of God. And we was approaching, and many of them was reapproaching the children of God, living according to the ways of man, saying they were living the ways according to God. And God, he's going to sit there and he's going to document. It's documented in the covenant of God. So these people that are reapproaching Jehovah's little ones, it's better that they are tied this millstone around their neck until they can drown themselves in the depths, the lowest parts of hell. See, that's the recommendation he's telling you. It ain't going to work, but that's the recommendation he was telling people. People think they can hide from Christ. People think they can hide from Christ. I'm going to tell you what, we're going to pivot for a second. We're going to pivot for one quick second. Let's look at something. People think they can hide from him. And you're going to see something in Revelation chapter 20. We're going to go down to verse 11. This is something John seen. John telling you about a vision he has seen. And he said, I saw a great throne, in him, Jehovah, that sat on it, from whose face of the earth and heaven fled away. Wait a minute. Okay. So we just want to make sure we just getting the foundation understanding what's going on. We getting this foundational understanding. So when he seen who was sitting on the throne, Christ, in the face, this glory and his presence is there. Heaven is telling you right there. It's right up there. Heaven and earth fled away. They bounce. If they bounce, meaning if you are in the ground, you get left. You sleep. You asleep. So you get left. You right there. This is our problem. But most people don't know this is the main problem here. In earth gonna flee, leaving all the dead that was in the earth presence before Christ. So as we see this, it gets better. It gets better because we threw a lot of us threw ourselves in the sea. Remember that? He said, throw yourself in deeper parts of the sea. We're going to get to all that. It says, and I saw the dead, great and small, standing before God in the books, plural, not singular. Books were open. Remember, he said, if you offend one, this is what this is talking about. If you offended one of them, this is what he's getting into. The books was open in another book. The book is the ones that's the ways of those little ones. That's them. And you're going to find out that one. They're going to be over there in that book. That book was open, which was the book of life. The ones who was living towards the ways of Christ. The one who had that lifestyle of Christ. And that book is open. And you're going to hear that. But the problem is the dead were judged, was taught out of these things which was written in the books. So remember all those things you did? Oh, this is the church of Christ and this. Yeah, remember all that stuff? And you done lied to all these people? Okay, that's right there. Come to this church. Yeah, you right there in those books. You right there in those books. People done told you to come to this place, come to that place, come to this place, give this money, give that money, do this, do that. You're there. It's in those books. And you're going to be judged out of these things which was written in those books according to their works. You've been lying. You've been blaspheming on Christ the entire time. This is the problem. But he gets better. And as we standing before the presence, let's put up a couple of things here. Let's make sure. In Exodus chapter 6, we're gonna look at verse 7. This is why I said you messing with the wrong person, but we don't know that. And you messing with JEHOVAH because he's telling you who he is. He says in Exodus chapter 6, verse 7, he said, I will take you to me for a people. Now that's the problem. Because now he's going to take us to him for a people. And he said, and I'll be to you a God. Now you got a problem. And then he married us. Then he married us. So he joined to us. So when you do something to us, you're doing it to him. You're doing it to us, you're not doing it to me. You're doing it to him. I'm living according to his way. This is why the house, the man of the house, the husband is the head of the house. The same way is JEHOVAH is the head of Christ. Christ is the head of us. We are the head of the woman. That's why it works in that way to where we can see the similitude continually working. So when you messing with my wife, you messing with me. When you messing with me, you messing with Christ. When you messing with Christ, you messing with God. The foolery just goes all the way up the chain. So we should understand these things. This is why it's so important for us to understand how this works. How this works. And he's telling us this all the time. So when these books was open, and these the ones also who didn't obey the voice. See, they didn't want to obey this voice. And many of us is not going to obey the voice. I don't care what we do, even after we leave here. As soon as we get off of here, some of them are going to immediately start feeling better. Because they didn't have to get tied into it. But I want you to understand something. We want to see it. We want to see what happens. And we'll understand what's going on here. Because he given us the knowledge. He has given these watchmen this knowledge. And he's given it to us to keep you in this way, to keep you in the path of righteousness. But he's going to tell you right up front, as we're looking over here in Exodus chapter 23, verse 20, it says, remember I send a messenger. I'm going to send a messenger before thee to keep you in the way, to bring thee unto the place which I have prepared. You see what he's doing here? I'm preparing a place here. But I'm going to have this messenger to keep you in this way. Actually, we're going to tell you what. Let's do this. To show you what's going on. In 2nd Esdras, I want to show you something. 2nd Esdras chapter 2, in verse 13. Because this is where he wants us to take it. This way he's trying to lead you to. This is what he's seeking to do. It says, go ye shall receive. Pray for a few days unto you, that ye may be shortened, that the kingdom is already prepared for you. Watch. It's already there. It's already there. It's already prepared. So he had this messenger to prepare the way for you, and we just need to follow the way. And it says, beware of him. Beware of that messenger. Watch out for that joke. Watch out for him. It says, obey his voice, because it's not him. You looking at that person, but you're not listening to what's coming out of his mouth. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgression, because he don't have that kind of authority. He's coming to tell you only what God has warned you. That's it. He can't sit there and say, oh no, we'll be cool. No, he's not doing none of that. He's not there to say, well, you can do this, but no, he's not doing no buts. He can't pardon a grape. For my way, my name, my way is in him. He can't pardon the grape. Technically what he's saying. He's not carrying the weight. He's the vessel that has sat there and made his body available, wholly acceptable unto him, which was his reasonable service. So if we receive the truth, the knowledge of this righteousness, and we still transgress this stuff, we still transgress everything. And most of us still going to do it. This is why I never sit there and certain things I don't say, certain things I don't believe in saying. Because you have people going to use lip service. And I'm not a person of lip service. And the same thing here in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26. Because as it's telling you, this messenger that's before you to keep you in the way. Actually, I'm going to highlight both of them. I'm going to highlight both of these. Because he to keep you in the way, to bring you unto the place which he had prepared, which is the kingdom. But some of you is not going to do it. And now we're going to continue to do these things after you have received this understanding. And that's why Hebrews 10:26 tell you, for if we sin willfully after we have received knowledge of the truth, this righteousness, there remaineth no more sacrifice. There's no more established covenants that you can make for sins. You can't make any other established any kind of other covenant. Well, you got but I was late. No. Get off of that. Look, I was just trying to come, but but what? But I overslept in the alarm. Okay. And what? This is something we do badly. It's no buts. After we have received the knowledge of the truth, this spirit, and we're going to find out even more, so we're going to dig deeper. Because some people still ain't caught what it is. And I told you what it was in the beginning. But if you didn't catch it in the beginning, that letting yourself know how much you was paying attention as we got here, and you still can't clearly say what the spirit is, that's showing you wasn't paying close attention to what I was saying, because it told you exactly what it was in the first. Interesting, isn't it? Because you're going to hear me talk about it again in detail. But let's look at something. It says, when you receive this here, this spirit, see, then the world becomes worthless because you're making your vows with your mouths and you're keeping none of them. So if we continue to sin according to the flesh, then what established covenant he want to make with you? You already proven that we can't do it. And these are the ones that's going to be part of the second resurrection. The first part, if you was part of the first resurrection, most people don't even know what they thinking the resurrection going to happen after everybody's dead. Everybody believe this. You had a lot of people believe this. But then when you find out what the truth is, you find out This is the first resurrection. You in it now, but we don't even understand that. How are you going to sit there, die, get resurrected, find out what to do wrong, live again, then die, then resurrect again? Because it's 2 resurrections. It's 2. It's only 2. And this is the part that we have a problem with. The first resurrection, you need to be able to condemn the remembrance of sin. You need to be able to condemn this remembrance of sin, the works of the flesh. Let's look at something now. Let's go through something. And we're going to find something in John. This is why so many people are going to get in so much problems. And then they want to tell you other things. And this is why I say it's simple to let him speak here, and I can give you some clarity on it. It says, howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, is cometh, he will guide you into all truth, to all righteousness. And he shall not speak for himself. That should tell you everything. That should have told. And he's not going to speak for himself. He's not going to be boasting. Hey, you want to come over here? I got this Bugatti. You want to get one of these Bugattis? Come on over here with me. You want to get this big house on the hill? Come over here with me. You want that $1 million? Sit there and you name it and you claim it and you come here and we're going to make sure you get it. You want to roll like me? Look at me. I got on this big jewelry. I got a necklace on that weighed 15 pounds of gold. It's telling you right here. For he shall not speak of himself. He's only there to tell you what you need to do. What sense? I'll tell you what. Let's do this real quick. And this is real quick for everybody. What sense will it make for me to teach you what I have, money I have, houses, cars, fame, anything? What will it benefit you to get in the kingdom? I won't be anybody. If it's nothing, just say nothing. That's all you do. But if it's something, you just put, yeah, it helped me. You just do it. Just put it in, just put it in the chat. What will it do boasting me to get you into the kingdom? What will it do for you? Exactly the point. Nada. Yeah, I like exactly the point. Nothing boasting on me gonna get you anywhere. I told you I'd get you to McDonald's. And none of y'all ain't gonna want to happen to y'all. Not a thing. I heard that. I heard that. Not a thing. This is what it's telling you. So if I'm boasting on myself, I can't get you. I'm not doing anything. So that's why this is so important here. That's why this is so important. It is telling you these things is not going to profit you. But you have people who teach that way. They want to show you what they have. They want to show you what they're capable of doing, these things. This is why they do that. And it's telling you right there. It said, for he shall speak not of himself, but whosoever he shall hear, that he shall speak, and he will show you things to come. So all I can do is show you these things to come. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just, I tell you what. Tell you what you do. Let's look at another thing. Let's look at it another way. Okay. Put this in your mind again, and then we're going to move forward. Put this in your mind again. A letter in an envelope. I want you to keep this in mind. Please keep this in mind with yourself. I know some people might do it a little bit different, but still, theoretically, if it has no value, I just want to make sure. And what happens is here. The message is on the letter. I'm the envelope. What has the value? Do the envelope have value, or what's in the letter has value? If it's the envelope, just put envelope. If the letter, then put letter. Because whatever one has the value is the one you're going to keep. Whatever one has the value is going to keep. Exactly. The message, the letter. Yeah, this is the letter. Okay, the same identical thing here. They got a letter going like crazy. It's the letter. It's the letter. That's it. It's the letter. It's so clear. So what it's telling you and what I'm trying to get people to understand is, if I'm a messenger, I have a letter inside of me. I'm just the envelope. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So when people put the high value on the envelope, you miss the entire thing. You miss the entire thing on what you need to know. Because now I can have it all kinds of ways. So this is the point we're trying to make. I'm just an envelope. But what's in there is a letter. And the letter is where your value is. And this is why it's telling you this right here. So if I come and I'm speaking of myself, it's like the envelope coming and it's gonna boast. You ain't got to open me up. I want to show you what I'm about. That's technically what it be happening. And you can see how much no sense that makes. You can see how crazy that is. You can see how really stupidity that is. If the envelope trying to boast saying, don't open me up to see what's inside and just roll with what I'm gonna do. That's the issue. So if you're told of unrighteousness and then your souls, and then we got to understand what this obedience is and what's going on. That's why it gets so serious here. Let's go back over here and look at something. In Ezekiel, it's telling us something here in Ezekiel. And we're going to go over here to chapter 3, but this time we're going to go to verse 17. And we're going to find out some things on what it's saying, because I got to keep putting it back on myself. I can't get around this. So I have to put it back on me. And it's telling you something on what this is required of me. Because that's why I can't get around it. But then people can understand a little bit more so why I speak the way I speak sometimes in what I say. And it's telling you, it says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. So I'm saying I have taken that position. And I'm a watchman unto you guys. So if I'm a watchman unto you guys, and then it says, therefore, hear the word at my mouth. So now he's telling me I have to be obedient to him. I have to be 100% obedient to him. So I got to be the envelope. And with me being the envelope, I can't even do an envelope. I hate to, but anyway, so if I'm gonna be the envelope, I'm gonna deliver something on which is gonna come. And he says, and hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. That's the message that's in me. That's it. So the envelope is nothing. I'm nothing. That's why I never say put me on these people. People want to send me, say, oh, thank you. I get it, but it's him. It's him that you got to make sure. It's that's the most important thing. So the spirit is the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding that you need. That's the spirit, and it's the spirit of God. And it had made me a watchman. In a watchman, I want you to understand another thing there. A watchman is a eunuch. People have been taught so many different things. Eunuchs is castrated men and homosexual. That's the stupidest thing in the world. But a eunuch is a watchman. A eunuch is also, a watchman is also a keeper unto the house. And when it's telling you the house, it's telling you the family of Israel. Because if you are from one of those children, then you are the family of Israel. And when you want to say the family, you are JEHOVAH's servant. This is the reason for them to take these warnings from the messenger of God. That's why it's so important for you to take these messages serious. And the main thing is, tell you what, you can answer it again. The same thing is, what power can an envelope give you? Just the envelope. Say the envelope can't pardon nothing. Envelope don't carry no weight. So what can an envelope do? An envelope can't do anything for you. Only can give you a warning. The thing that message that's in there. which is from JEHOVAH, which is by the word, which is the spirit of JEHOVAH, which is the spirit, the word from God. He's telling you all the time what he's doing. All the time what he's doing. And let's look at this. Verse 18, it says this. Verse 18 saying this. It says, when I say, he's talking to me. And he's talking to the elders and deacons and evangelists. He's talking, he said, I say unto thee, thou wicked man. So this is what we're supposed to do. Thou shalt surely die. And thou giveth him not warning. So he's telling us that the house is wicked. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's saying, tell everybody the house is wicked. And I made you a watchman unto the house of Israel. And you go in there and amongst my people and you tell them they are wicked. But it's telling you right there. You see this semicolon? That was a full thought there. That was a full thought. But he said, including thou giveth them not warning. But you shoot. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I ain't doing that. I'm not going to do it. I got family in there. And I can't do it that way. Lord, I got to do it another way. Because I got family in there. And I respect their flesh. Really? That's interesting. You don't give them the warning. Because you caring about your family, your cousins, your friends, your wives, your husband. You care about them. Your children. You care about them. So what happens? Nor warn them that wicked from his wicked ways to save his life. Because you telling him to save his life, but you don't do it. That same wicked man. So you're not going to save anybody. He's telling why that same wicked man shall die in his iniquity. So in his acts of sin, he's still going to die. 100 dying as dead as a doorknob. He is going to die. They are not going to live. They are going to die. But watch what he says. That's a full thought. He said, but his blood, his lifestyle, I will require thy hand. But I'm going to put that on you. Lord, so what you saying? So when I get into the kingdom, you said you coming into where? Oh, I'm coming into the kingdom, though, but you coming into the kingdom. For what? Wait a minute. I made you a watchman to warn them. You didn't do it, but you think you still coming in here. You might look over there, Joshua. Can you repeat this to Joshua? Joshua would love to hear this. Joshua gonna love to hear this because this is a beautiful joke. I made you a watchman. You're a watchman to warn the house of Israel, and you didn't warn nobody. But you're a watchman, and you didn't do anything. But now you think you still have the rights to come into the kingdom. But you're the watchman. Are we missing something here? I'm telling you. We can't even make this stuff up. But you got some people going to do that. I promise you some people going to do it. And that lifestyle going to be held on you. Because you're going to, I ain't going to say it. That's my cousin. Me and my cousin, we grew up together. I can't tell nothing. I know. They're going to mess up our relationship. Okay, who you love more? You love God or love them? Don't tell them. Watch what's going to happen to you. This is what happens. So as we understand this, and then we get into better understanding of what's happening. So as the people who's living according to the flesh, and these people, they live in these lifestyle, and they're going to die. They're going to die telling you they're going to perish. They're going to perish in sin, in their iniquities. But being made a watchman to the house of Israel, to the house of God only, and not giving them a warning, then that person is going to lose their life based on their wickedness towards God. It's 100%. It's 100%. And he's not going to die or he's going to pass for knowing, but he's dying because he didn't know. I want you to think about it. He's going to die for what he didn't know, but you knew it. And you chose not to tell them because you wanted your relationship to stay intact. I need this thing because I'm cool with it. Okay, you want to stay intact. He said, I didn't come to send peace here. I didn't come down here so you can sit there to be Jimmy Crackcorn, I don't care. No, I came down here with a sword. I came down here to separate. Came down here, you're gonna have foes within your own household. But you don't want to tell nobody. Wait a minute, I made you a watchman. And including, I have given you to where you can make a choice. I woke you up and you choosing not to tell nobody. You think you getting there. He said, I'm going to laugh at your calamity. That's why I'm laughing, because it's actually funny. You ain't going to tell nobody. That's why, so this is why I tell people, do you think it bothers me when I tell you what you have to know? No. You want to separate from them? You do. You do just that. Because the main thing is, I'm going to make sure you know the truth. And I ain't going to show you, hey, Elder John, that's so cold. You calling us dogs. Okay, what do Revelation chapter 22 verse 15 say? For all without are dogs. Okay, so do you want to go tell him? Because he the one calling you one. I'm just the envelope. I'm just the envelope. I'm not the letter. I'm the envelope. I'm the one you throw away in the letter you keep. I'm the envelope. Let's keep everything in perspective. So we want to understand something. We want to understand what this house is. So their sinful thoughts, their iniquities are going to be counted for your life. Meaning this, when those books are open according to the works of the flesh, and you as a watchman, your name is going to show up in those books because you chose not to do something. So it's going to replace you. It's going to put you there because you didn't give them warning to the house of Israel for God. I'm telling you, we can't get out of this stuff. I want to show you a quote. I use this every night. I'm going to show you a quote. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 35. Really, really interesting quote. But I want to show it to you. In verse 35. We just went through it, but I want to make sure you see it. Make sure it hits you real close. He says, for I come to set a man at variance against his father. I want you to think about it. I came to make a man at variance against his father. Not for his father, against his father. No. He came to make a variance against his father. Against. So this variance is a dispute. The variance is contention. So he didn't come to make peace. He came to make a variance against the father, including the daughter against the mother, including the daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law. I didn't come to bring peace. I didn't come to do that. So what you trying to do? I wouldn't think we could still be friends. It's the way you do it. It's the delivery. Okay. All right. Keep thinking that. So he's telling you right here in verse 36. He says, a man's foe shall be of his own household. Your own enemy going to be right there. Right there. But it's the way you can tell. Okay. Oh, going to you going to counsel God. I'm telling you, you can't make this. You cannot make this up. It's a way to do it. It's a way, it's a way to put it. Really. He called you a dog. So how should he call you a dog? Actually, I'm just going to put it up just to show you something real quick. Because some people might be sitting there, I ain't never seen it. I'll show it to you. Because I know a lot of people don't like to teach Revelations, but I want to show it to you. I'm going to show you what he's telling you here. It says, wisdom is given are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. But watch what he says here in verse 15. I'm telling you. Because people ain't, he ain't saying, okay, for all without. So anybody's not doing it, you're a dog. Bona fide dog. Roof. You a bona fide dog. I don't care how you look at it, how you, well I know, I'm not talking about your mama, a dog. Your daddy's a dog. You a dog. Your children, dogs. And if you're not doing them, you a dog. You a whoremonger, you a sorcerer, and a murderer, and idolater, and whosoever make it love it, make it a lie. And he said, now you seeing the one who actually wrote the letter. I'm the envelope. He's telling you right there. I, JEHOVAH, has sent my letter. That's the envelope. I'm the envelope. I sent you can say, I sent my envelope to testify unto you these things in the churches. So you got a problem? Go tell him. Because he the one telling it to you. Don't trip with me. But people love to trip with us. He calling you this is the way you should do it. It's a more respectful way to do this. Really. He said call you a dog. What you want me to do? Call you a canine? A bagel? A pit bull? A German shepherd? I don't know. They're all dogs. I don't know. But I don't know. That's what you might want. I don't know. But he's saying you're not doing it, you're a dog. And you got the warning. You have the warning. And your own foes going to be in your own household. He's telling you this right here. In fact, he said this, verse 37. He that loveth his father or mother more than me, just make this clear. I want you to make this clear. When he's saying more than me, not worthy of me, just say you're not worthy for the kingdom. That's all. Just keep that in mind. If you love your father, mother more than you love him, you ain't going into the kingdom. We just make that clear. Make that just perfectly clear. If you love them more than you love him, you are not fit for the kingdom. Right there. Including he that loveth son, daughter more than me, not fit for the kingdom. You're not worthy of him. You just keep that. But it's a way to say it. Okay, when you get there, tell him. When you get there, tell him. I'm just the messenger. I'm just the envelope. I'm just the envelope. Keep that in mind. So when you get nailed, thinking he should be saying this at least a bit better way. No. Nope. Tell it to you just like it need to be told. And this is the problem that we have. In fact, let's go down a little bit more. Just pull some more information in Matthew chapter 25, but we're going to go over here in verse 29 and see the same thing. Which some people really don't believe it happens. It says, for unto everyone that have shall be given. So if you have knowledge, more can be given to you. Because it says, including he shall have abundance. He's going to make sure you tie to a person who you can get it. You can get this information in abundance. In abundance. But you got a second part here. But, see, you don't want him saying but. See, but I don't like him saying but. But he do it. But guess what? That's not my prerogative. Hey, he say but. I'm putting but there. It says, but him that have not shall be taken away. But here go the problem. Even that which he have. So even though you done had the truth, that's taken. That's the problem. So this is the issue here. So now let's go back and let's pull this back over here and let's pull some more information here. Now let's go back in 10, but we're going to wrap it up in verse 38. We're going to wrap that part up right there in verse 38, real nice and clear. So that's why he's saying this. Including he that taketh not his cross, your own suffering unto death. They're going to, just because you live in the ways of Christ, people are going to reapproach you. They're going to blaspheme on you. They're going to talk about you. They're going to even try to do physical things to you. Your own suffering unto death. They're going to separate from you. You're a disgrace. You're an outcast from your family. You're an outcast from your wife. You're an outcast from your husband. You're an outcast from your children. You're an outcast from your cousins, friends. He that don't take up his own cross, your own suffering unto death. You're going to go through this until you die. You're going to take this until you die. And you got to take this cross. You got to take it. You got to seize this to you. And once you do that and you have to follow after him, you got to come behind him. But if you choose not to do it, he said, he taketh not his suffering unto death. You ain't going to take this on and you ain't going to follow that way. You ain't worthy of him. You ain't worthy of it. He did it. He did it. Can you do it? He did it. See, this is the part that we have to come to grips with. We have to take this moment and understand what's going on. So as it says here, and just recapping some of this as we're getting ready to move forward, in Mark chapter 3, in picking this up at verse 32. Verse 32. It says, and the multitude sat about him, and they said unto him, remember thy mother and thy brother without seek for ye. Wait a minute, they without. What? Thy brother without seek thee. Wait a minute. We got to think on this one for a second. JEHOVAH's mother and his brother without, they seeking him. This is highly interesting. In JEHOVAH, he see him over there. But I'm telling you, this is a crack up, but you can see how he doing it. And he answered them saying, who is my mother and who is my brother? You don't think his mother and them can hear that? You don't think she heard that? You don't think his brother, what? I can't believe he said that about me. Who are they? Who is my mother? Who is my brother? I'm telling you, a lot of us had this issue. A lot of us going to have this issue. When it comes down to it, and he's telling you, right in front, he looked around about them and said about him. And he said, remember, behold, remember my mother and my brother. My mother and my brother. This spirit of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. He's telling you. Those, if they without, then they ain't worthy for the eternal salvation period. Because some people are going to try to save their own life and they're going to lose their own eternal life. But if you lose this life, you have to be willing to lose this life to where you can turn the other way, that spirit. You have to have that knowledge and understanding of God to where you can gain eternal life, a life for a life. You have to give a life for a life. In fact, as we're wrapping that part up, he's telling you right clearly here. For whosoever should do the will of God, the same is my brother and my sister and my mother. These are ones. Not just, hey, the ones without, they call, okay, who are they? Who are they? Let's go back over here to Ezekiel chapter 3. But let's drop down to verse 19. Let's go down to verse 19. It says, yet. You're going to get some more into this. If thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness. So he warned him, and he didn't turn, nor from his wicked ways, or his wicked way. He shall die for his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. So if you told them, and they chose to sit there to do everything contrary, you good. You can walk on. You can go skip down the street. You done told them. You has been a watchman to him, and that's all he wants you to do. He don't want you to power it into him. Just warn them. So if they sit there and they don't do it, then cool. They're going to die. They're going to perish. But you're fine. You free from the responsibility of the outcome on them on Judgment Day. You free from that. You done freed your soul from death, from condemnation and judgment, what you didn't do. You cool about what happened. In fact, in verse 20, it tells you a little bit more in verse 20. It says again, when the righteous man doeth turn from his righteousness. So if he turns from his righteousness, it means he's going to start doing wickedness, including commit iniquity, these acts of sin. Now, I'm going to show you how cold the Most High is. Because if you ain't with God, anything can go down. Because the world is a really weird place. So he's telling you this. He says, I lay stumbling block before him, before his presence. Because now everything, he see everything, even though God made everything good, he sees it wicked. Remember the good for bitter and bitter for good? So now everything this wicked person sees is now good. And whatever was good, he sees it as wicked. These are stumbling blocks. So as he's laying these stumbling blocks there, they're not stumbling blocks. These are ways on ways he need to go, but he sees them as bad. Because he's going to use them as bad, which they're good. And he's going to see good for bad. Stumbling blocks. So he's going to put these stumbling blocks before his presence, and he shall die, because that's what he's going to do. He's going to do them to where he's going to do them to his death. Because thou has not given him warning. We didn't tell him. But if you don't tell him, you didn't give him warning, he's going to die. He shall die in his sins, and his righteousness which he has done shall not be remembered, but his blood will I require at thy hand. That's why I don't have no problem whatsoever telling you whatever I need to tell you what's in this book. None. This is the problem that we run into. We see good for bad and bad for good. So when judgment comes, I don't need nothing on my hands. I don't need none of your lives on my hands. None. So when this judgment comes, the great and small, you're going to sit there that they done offend these little ones. Standing before God. These books are open. That other book is open. And the little ones that you offended is in that one book. And the offenders is judged. So they're taught of the things that was written that was according to the works of the books. So remember when we talking about where he gave you the recommendation throwing your parts in the deepest parts of the sea? Remember that? I know most of y'all. Yeah, you did say that. Yeah, let me show you. Let me show you what's going on. In Revelation chapter 20, 13 is telling you something. See, remember earth and heaven fled? Remember they fled? Watch this. Watch what the sea gonna do to you. Watch what the sea do to you. It says, including the sea gave up the dead. You thought you remember you put that millstone around your neck and threw yourself in the deepest parts of the sea? The sea gonna throw you. The sea. Oh hell no, Joe. No, Joe. No, you got to go, bro. You can go anywhere. I don't know where heaven went. I don't know where earth went. I don't know where they went. Yeah. I'm just. You can't stay here either. You cannot stay here either. So this is where your problem is. So I don't need you here. So the main thing is, you are not gonna sit here. So this is where he holds him at. This is the part of that. So as this goes on and you sit there and you see these things and you see these things that happen. So now you see the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up of the dead which were in them. Everybody giving up the dead. Everybody giving up the dead. Everybody. The dead is being given up to everything. And it says in them, and they were judged. They was taught every man according to their works. So now you're going to understand why those things is happening to you. You're going to understand why you going to die. And the more so, I want to show you something. The more so, you're going to see how that actually goes down. More so when you sit there and you come into judgment and you trying to get away from death, death just going to come to you and just start taking you out. But I want to show you a similitude of that. I want to show you a similitude of that. I got to show you this. So let's look at something. So again, this the same thing is going to be going down. They're going to sit there and they're going to find out when they hit that judgment. See, when judgment hit, you can't get around it. And as you try to think you can get away, they're going to throw you right back to him. You're going to go right back. You ain't getting away from this. There's no way you're going to get away from this. That is the second death. You cannot get away from around it. And we're going to see this here as we go down. In Revelation chapter 20, but we're going to look at verse 14. We got to see what happens there. And it tells us. It says, "In death and hell were cast into the lake of fire." That's who they went to, this guy. This is the second death. The first death is of the flesh. But don't mess around, let your spirit get caught up. Because your spirit is caught up, this you're going to hit. You're not getting around it. You're going to run right into it. So knowing that death and hell are going to be cast into the lake of fire, death will cause the body to be mortified. Death is going to cause the body to be mortified for years, for messing with one of his little ones. So remember the thing which I spoke about the wife taking on the name of the husband. When these things, and you do something like this, and you hear these things that's going on, and you have done something to her, and she had a husband, you're not going to be found in that book. You're not going to be found there. Let's look at this in verse 15. It says, "In whosoever was not found in the written, who was not found written." So, and we want to understand what written actually means. So written means in Shiloh. So in whosoever was not found in Shiloh, that's what that actually saying. In the book. So when you're not found in Shiloh, the testimony that was spoken to you is what it's actually telling you. So if you wasn't found there, not in that Shiloh, and the testimony that was spoken to you in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Because most people know what Shiloh is. Shiloh is whose right it is. So if you wasn't found written with those testimonies, this is why it says that. And now you'll see why it's saying what it says most times when we really want to understand what Scripture is conveying to us. This is why he says this in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 7. Saying this and making it perfectly clear for us. Now we're going to get a little bit clearer now. It says, then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book. Now I know why we need to come in the volume, meaning in the seal, the weights and all measures. That's what that's saying. I'm coming in the volume, in the seal and the weights of all measures of the book, the covenant. Now we get it. Now we get it. Now this making sense. Because it's telling you, it is written, it is who right it is of me to do thy will, O God. Now you see the clarity. Now you see why it makes so much sense. Now you see why he's telling you he has to come in the volume of the book. And we have to meet these conditions that is written in the book. And some have met the requirements at 30-fold. Some met it at 60-fold. Some met it at 100-fold. Now do everybody get it? Now do everybody understand this? Just want you to think about it. Now do you understand why this is so important? Why is it so important to make sure you understand Scripture? In fact, we're going to have a few problems. I want to show you some of these problems we can encounter. In Matthew, let me show you something. In Matthew chapter 18, Matthew 18, verse 7. Matthew 18, verse 7. Remember this? See, now we're going back. It says, woe because unto the world because of offenses, for it must need be that offenses come, but woe to that man by whom the offenses cometh. I'm talking about he's dropping the bomb on us. He's dropping the bomb on us. Because these offenses is these trespasses, these wrongdoings, these acts. We can't get around them. These things must happen. Doing wrong to these little ones, it has to happen. The same as what Pharaoh was doing to Moses. They had to happen. The same as what you see what's going on with us today. They have to happen. From which these offenses come. Let's look at something in verse 8. Let's look at this and get a little bit better understanding why this is happening. And because he want to make sure they sealed in something that they can't get around it. That's why he did that to Pharaoh. Same he's doing here that we see around the world. It says, wherefore, if thy hand, if your power or your desire offend thee, it's a little bit closer now, isn't it? It's a little bit closer now, isn't it? See, I just want you to let me know if you're a little bit closer now or not. See, now we're seeing what's going on now. Because if your power or your desire offend thee, cut them off. If your friend, your wife, your husband, your child, your mama, your daddy, if it's offending the way of Christ that's in you, cut it off. I can love y'all while y'all here, but I'm not going to offend Christ. I can love you what you hear, but you talk about your God on that side, and I talk about my God on my side. You cut it off. And it's telling you what, it says, and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life half or maimed, rather than living two hands, two powers, flesh and mammon, lukewarm, In 2 feet, 2 desires be cast into everlasting fire. Why in the hell are you going to do that? That's my mama. That's my mommy. Really? Okay, your mommy going to put your butt right in hell. Now we get it. Now it's a little bit closer. I like to go around the corner to where we get caught up to where we can't get rid of anything. In fact, I'm going to show you something where we're going to see this here. Because now this desire, and the same thing go with the people who want to be racist. Racist. See, people sit there like Israel, oh, hell yeah, you got some racist people in Israel. You got some racist people over here. All you got to do is go pull up stuff that you'll see. We got some 100% racist people against another people just because of the color of their skin. But this goes for all people. This goes for white, black, Mexican, purple, blue, green. It's telling you right there. Wherefore, if thy foot, your desire, offended, you better cut that bad boy off. Don't sit there and be. Let me go somewhere. I want to take you somewhere. I want you to understand something. We're going to go to 2 Esdras chapter 5, and we're going to pick this up at verse 23. I want to show you something so you can clearly get what's going on. We're going to see something in verse 23 as it says, and it's going to make itself perfectly clear again. In the Lord that beareth rule of every wood of the earth, and all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen the one only vine. One, the choices. One, whose right it is. The choices. Whose right it is. He chose one. Just because you look like him, just because you look as that way, just because you appear in a certain way, don't mean you're that way. Because that word didn't take no effect on you. That spirit didn't have nothing on you. But it gets better. It gets better. Including all the lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit. One pit. And of all the flowers, one lily. One. I'm going to get here. I want to tell you something before I lose that thought. It says, and of all the depths of the sea, we are in the 4 corners of this world. The 4 corners of this world, we are in it. And he's filled one river. Thou hast built cities. Thou hast hallowed Zion unto thyself. See, the reason I want you to understand that, to see what is coming on here, I want to show you something. Because no matter where we are, what we're doing, how we look at it, how we want to flip it, we're here for what we did. We're here for what our ancestors did. We're here for what our forefathers did. And when you sit there, we want to always hold somebody else accountable for what we do. So they're showing you don't have the spirit, period. This is a zero-sum game. And you look at this in Lamentations chapter 2, picking up at verse 15, it's telling us this and it's making something very clear, because when people see you and you got people trying to emulate you in certain ways, I don't care what we do, people will always forever emulate you. You're different. You're peculiar. We hang our pants, they hang their pants. We braid our hair, they braid their hair. They only talked about what they really wanted from you. Back then, they used to draw us with big lips. Made fun of them, but we took it as an insult. They was taking it as why we can't have lips like that. And now they get them. They just don't call them what you call them. They call them European lips. But you getting upset. What you getting mad for? They trying to emulate you. They made fun of your butts. You can go look at the whole thing. They didn't do it because they hated it. They do it, why we can't have a butt like that? Why women can't have butts like that? You get mad. Now you over there, I can't believe you. They weren't trying to. They was trying to tell you the entire time. They want to look like you. They got tanning salons all over the world. Why? They trying to look like you. We took their weakness as a disrespect because they made fun of something that they could not have. It's evident. So as we out there acting a fool, acting everything, doing all these things, this is why they do this. All that passed by, telling you right here in Lamentations chapter 2, verse 15, passed by, they clapped their hands and hissed and wagged their heads at the daughters of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city? Is this the city that men call the perfection and beauty? Oh, dang. Perfection and art. Your art. The perfection and beauty. The joy of the whole earth. Is this them? Is this them? They try to do everything. But if you understood it, we would have known it. Most people are going to make fun of something on what they really want, that they feel it's impossible for them to get it. So we look at this and we look at these sisters, and now you see these white women and Asian and many other different ones. They'll do these things. And literally they desecrating their body, but what they doing, they trying to look like you. Because it's desirable. Why? Because even their men, they look at these women, man, she's very nice looking. They hear the talk in their own culture. They hear the talk. But we sit there and talk about them. I'm telling you, we can't get out of our own way. We can't understand when people sitting there, when they can't have something, they're trying to destroy it. You seen what happened with Solomon with the two children, those two babies. When the one baby was dead, the lady sitting there saying, okay, and then the one who stood up the most, she said, no, because Solomon said, well, I'll cut the child in half. The one woman who knew what was going on, knew what the truth was, better for him to just to live on like that than to have her child also die. So she said, no, give her the child. The other lady, yeah, cut him in half. Cut him in half. He said, no, give that child to her, because that's where it really belongs. The same in this position. They putting on something that they can't have, so they emulate it. Same as Jewish people, they emulate people of us. That's why you see them, they wear black clothes. Why do you think they do that? They trying to look different. And we have an issue with that. But all we have to do is keep living. That's all we have to do. Just keep living. But we had the biggest problem because that's wrong for them to do. No, they trying to look like you. You had a white girl a while back. She, because they got pills they can take to get dark just like you. To get dark just like us. They want to emulate you. You go to certain sports, they try to emulate these men, these women. And we look at them a whole different way. What they dislike, and if they can't have it, they kill it. That's why our men, we die at unreal numbers. That's why our men is in jail in unreal numbers. This is why women, they like to sit there to where they use that spirit to poison the people. These things happen. These things we can't get around. But you need to really understand what is happening here. And he's telling us this where we'll get some more understanding here. It says, in all the fowl that I have created, that I had named one dove. In all the cattle that are made, thou hast provided thee one sheep. One. And if you provided that one sheep, if you can't have it, some of them just trying to emulate it. They just try to emulate it. This is what's going on today. We look at this in verse 27. We'll see this here. 27, and it says, and among all the multitude of people, thou hast gotten thee one people, one. And unto this people that thou lovest, thou promisest, thou givest a law that is approved of all. It's approved of everybody. So when you see people trying to emulate you, best thing to do is just smile and walk away. Just smile and walk away. Because they're not doing no harm to you. Because she went and got these things put in her lips. She did these things, but she wanted the European lips. But you know they're yours. You know she got them from your forefathers, from your foreparents, even you. So the easiest thing to do is just smile and walk away. You see them walking, the flat butts was never in. But now you see them, they working, they getting their butts like sisters in certain ways. They doing everything, they work their butts a certain way. The only thing you can do is smile and walk away. They're not trying to do any harm. They're doing it to themselves. And that harm that they're doing, they're not doing anything technically. When they sitting there, they going in gyms and working out to get the butt that they want, to try to get like a sister and all this. They're not hurting themselves. They're just trying to look like someone. And if she didn't do nothing to you, why you want to dislike her? She didn't do anything. The guy didn't do anything. When I used to work out a lot, and I was a younger guy, and we used to go down to the gym, and this white guy, he'll work out with us sometimes. He always said something really key. And some people used to take offense to it, but I never did take offense to him. And he'll sit there. He always said, what I really hate. He said, I hate this with a passion. And he was just, but he felt he can be open to a couple of brothers. He thought he can be open to us. I was cool with it, but the other one didn't take it so kindly. Even though he didn't say nothing disrespectful. Because I'm going to tell you what he said. And he said, I can't stand it. He said, you brothers, and that's what he said, you brothers, y'all are coming to the gym looking wimpy and all this stuff. He said, man, and don't do anything but just work out. And next thing you know, 6 months later, man, y'all got a physique that people kill for. He said, and I'm a white guy. And he literally said, I'm a white guy. I've been in this gym for 4 years. And I'm not ripped where I need to be ripped. I'm not this. He said, I got to take all these other things to just try to get some definition in my body. And he said, take for example, and he showed me a guy. I guess he was watching this guy for a period of time. He said, when he was in here, He didn't look nothing like what he looked like. He said, look at him now. Man, you can see 6-pack. Look at his arms, the definition, everything. He said, man, why we being cheated like this? What make you guys better than us? And he's been honest. Not mad, he was frustrated. Not one of us answered him. Not one. I didn't know what to tell him. Dude, I don't know. We just come here and work out. That was my analogy. But the main thing is, at the end of his conversation, he said, man, I wish I was black. Came right out of his mouth. I wish I was black. He said, I kill to have one of you guys' bodies. And you can see he was so serious. Now, the other two dudes stopped working out with him because they thought that was race. I didn't see nothing racist in it. I was cool with him. We still worked out together when, because sometimes he'll work out with us maybe about 2 days a week. And I still worked out with him. I didn't think nothing was wrong. Hey, he's cool. Nice guy, no issues. But the thing is, he was frustrated because he wanted to achieve something that we take for granted. We took that for granted. And it's telling us something even more so when we look at this here. So when we look at this here, we want to understand something. We'll find this also tucked away in 2nd Esdras, chapter 8. Because it's showing you what a people is like and what we're like. It's telling us here. In 2nd Esdras, chapter 8, picking up at verse 3, it says, there be many created. So many of us is created for here. Just like weeds, just like you go into a farm and see just thousands and thousands of bushels of corn. But few shall be saved. So we need to understand what that's saying. Because these nations has come before his presence. And he's going to divide this. And as it's going to be divided in the certain way that we sin, in the way that he's talking, we need to understand what all this means. And he's telling us this and why you see people, even when they don't know. Even when they don't understand. They just can't put their finger on it. And it's telling us, it says, for the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10th part is gone already, including the half of the 10th part. But we want to understand that today in its entirety. Because most people say, in the 10th part, they don't know what that means. But we got to find out what this means. And as we talk, we're going to find out. Because you got to remember this 10 parts. That's why I'm saying 10 parts. 10 mean unknown. So these unknown gates is gone already. Think about that. These unknown gates is gone already. Here's why I want you to think about this. In Exodus, we're going to look at 34. Exodus 34. But I want you to pay attention to verse 6. Attention to verse 6. I want you to understand something here. It says, in the Spirit of God passed by before, in the presence of him, and proclaimed the Spirit of God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering, and abundant in goodness and truth. Did we get it? Did we miss something? This is why we do what we do. So when he passed by, he proclaimed this. He proclaimed a way. We want to get that something. We want to get something real clear here. This is what we have to understand here. So he proclaiming his way that he's merciful. He's gracious. He's long-suffering. His goodness and truth. Many of us did not adhere to these words. Many of us don't adhere to these. So he put some more here to where we need to make sure we pay attention to. He put some more here. He says, keeping mercy for thousands. You see, it's not saying millions. Keeping mercy for thousands. And he's going to tell you something else. He says, forgiving iniquity and transgression. He's forgiving you. He can't sit there and exonerate just saying they disappeared. No, he can forgive you for the iniquity and transgression and sin. And that will by no means clear the guilty, because we're guilty of doing them. So it's not going to be cleared, but you can be forgiven of them. Visiting the acts of sin of the fathers upon the children's children, unto the third, including the fourth generation. He's going to keep coming. So we want to understand how this works. This 10, we want to understand how that works. This is why this is important, to understand the Spirit. And to get closer to the Spirit, we want to understand the 10, because it's talking about this unknown number, this unknown thing that we want to make sure we get. This will always be found in 1 Kings. Kings is actually telling you something that we need to know that we're going to probably find out within the next couple of months. But Kings is telling us more so on what we need to do. Kings in 1 Kings chapter 7, picking up at verse 43, going to tell us something. And it's going to help us understand a lot more and unfold a lot more information for us. He's telling us this. And this here is, we're looking at a lot of spiritual things here. I understand that, but we got to get the information to understand it. It says the 10 bases. What? Yeah. 10 bases. These 10, this unknown basis, these 10 foundations is what it's talking about. Bases, these foundations. This 10 is unknown. But it then says, including 10 this unknown levers. These covenants in the tabernacles. On the basis, on the foundations. You see how he's unlaying this. He's outlaying this for us to where we can understand what's going on. But if you remember this and keep this going and you understand spiritually what we're going to be doing as we continually move forward, just like I said, right now we too deep in the water. You can't go back up because you'll drown. The only way you can keep doing is go deeper into what we're doing. Let's look at something in verse 44. Verse 44, in one sea, this entire world is one sea. Keep that in mind. This entire world is talking about people, including 12 oxen under the sea. He caught us up again. So the sea is people and the 12 oxen is the cities, and under the sea is people that's there. But he's going to say something to where he's going to set us up. So we got to watch real close on how he's running this parable. And you see it here. It says all in the pots. You see right here? We want to understand something. You're going to get us something, because we can't let that one catch us up. So I want to make sure we keep that in mind. So it says in the pots, including the shovels. Bingo, we got him. This is where we want to make sure, because most of it would have went off on the pots, but you don't go off on the pots. You look at the shovels, because the shovels that are in sin, these shovels that are in sin is what is catching us. Now where we're going, it says, this makes it more clear, including the basins. These basins is the vessels. That's us. Keep this in mind. Keep it in mind as we continue more, because it says basins, including all vessels. Now you're talking about all vessels. In Hiram made the King Solomon for the house of the Spirit of God. We need to understand all what he's saying, because technically he's just saying it. We don't know what he's talking about. So we need to take what he's saying. We need to translate it to the spiritual word so we can understand what he's saying to make it plain to us, and then we can transfer it back. And technically what he's talking about is here. Well, so we know Hiram is my brother of the exalted one. That's what that's telling you. This is Hiram. That's what they're saying. So Hiram, the brother made of the exalted one, made to King Solomon. Is now we know what he's saying. We're flipping it. We're flipping it to where we need to be able to translate this, to where we get it. And he says, for the house of Israel were the bright brass. So this bright is to be anointed, and then the brass is the oracles and the secrets of God. That's what it's telling us right there in the full nutshell. In a full nutshell, we're catching it. And we want to know why he's saying that. We got to know why he's saying that. So what we do, we look at certain things. We see this in what he's talking about. In God, who has Israel, he's the keeper of his. And he keep his mercy for thousands, meaning those that are anointed. And this is 144,000 per generation. And he cleared And he's doing this by forgiving them of their iniquities and the transgression for sin, but he's not clearing them for committing them, but he's forgiving them. Because the word of God will not have an effect on them because of that. The same as we see with Gentiles and heathen. This is why he's telling you something that is really clear here. Actually, let me pull this one up to where we can get what's going on. We're going to find this over in Matthew chapter 15. And we're going to pick this up at verse 24. It's telling us something a little bit more clear. This is why he says this. And why we sitting there, we went into Kings, because it's telling you about what was going on with Solomon. It says, but he answered and said, I am not sent but, I'm only sent but unto the house of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He's only came to them. He's only came to them. But we got to see something, because if not, we can't clarify everything here in Kings. We have to be able to clarify everything there. Why he's doing this here, on why Yahweh is saying that. This is where our issue is. Because if he came to the house of the lost sheep of Israel, these are the elect ones of the household of there, and these are who they are and what they are. Let's look at something. Let's make sure we understand why he's doing this. This is why he says you can't sit there and take on these manservants, and you can't take them. Don't be looking on this, and don't be looking on my manservant. That's why he says all this stuff. And we want to find out why. That's the purpose, why he's saying you can't do certain things. We're going to see this. In Leviticus chapter 22, we're going to pick this up at verse 55, and we're going to find out more so distinctly why he's so adamant about that. He's talking about don't be looking up on my manservant, my ox servant. Why he's saying that? He's making sure he's clear here. And we'll see this here. It says, for unto me the children of Israel are servants. So if you're looking upon a man oxes, you're looking upon his asses, you're looking upon his maidservant, you're looking upon his manservant, you're looking upon that, you'll be doing these things to him also that you'll be doing right up front with him. So you don't want to do that. These things you don't want to do. You don't want to get caught up. And he's telling you, it says, for unto me the children of Israel are servants. They are my servant whom I brought forth out of the land of Israel. I am the spirit of your God. I'm the spirit of your God. That's why he says these things. That's why he holds that way. So we understand that. Now we understand how this is actually working, because now we have to come to this remembrance by the Spirit of God, and he has to be resting in us. Then it's making us the children of the elect, and must have forgotten when we went into the wilderness. I want to show you something. I want to show you something, the beautiful things about God and how we get caught up. We'll find this in Sirach chapter 37. Show you something really interesting here. In 37 verse 24. He's telling us this, and make sure we are clear on it. It says, a wise man will be filled with blessings. You see, he's catching us up again. He'll be filled with blessings, including they that see him shall count him happy. Exactly the point. Exactly what the point is. But we got to find out a little bit more. We're going to find out a little bit more. Verse 25. The days of the life of man may be numbered. Wow. But the days of Israel are innumerable. Did you catch it? The days of man shall be numbered, but the days of Israel. Okay, let's work something. Let's work something real quick. I'm gonna show you two places, because he's talking about the days of man are numbered. So we want to look at something. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 6, but we want to look at verse 3 for a particular reason on why we're doing this. And you see here what he's talking about here. It says, and the Spirit of God said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. It's numbered. He's telling you right up front, it's numbered. So if we know that it's numbered, now we know it's over here. The days of the life of man shall be numbered, but the days of Israel don't. So this is why you sit here and you go to Genesis chapter 49, picking it up at verse 2. And this is why Jacob's sitting there telling you, don't get caught up on him. Don't get caught up on him. It says, gather yourselves together and hear ye sons of Jacob of the flesh. Your days are numbered. You got a number. But he says, hearken unto Israel your father, that is innumerable. If you pay attention. It's clear. It's clear. But let's move a little bit further. Verse 26. It says, a wise man shall inherit glory among his people, and his ways shall be perpetual. Exactly what we're trying to achieve here. Perpetual is everlasting. So as we get into this, we got to have this something that's with us. And if it's not with us, which is that spirit, because if you're doing something according to the flesh, guess what? Your days are numbered. Your days are 100% numbered. According to the spirit, you're unnumberable. It's not no number there. Let's look at something go down to verse 27. And we'll see a little bit more. It says, my son, prove thy soul in thy life. I ain't going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything there. I'm going to leave that alone for you to think about that. It says, my servant, prove thy soul in thy life, including see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. Boom. It slapped us right there. It's slapping us right there. Because we got to prove ourselves according to our lifestyle. Sin. Because we see, meaning he see. Because he says, and see what. So we got to understand something. So if we're going to see something, he's telling us we got to discover and perceive what traps and snares is set for us. And don't never give into it. In fact, show you something. Keep this in Revelations. Keep this in your pocket. We're going to look at Revelation chapter 7, but we're going to hold on to verse 9. Put this one in your pocket. And it'll hold you. It says, after I beheld, it's telling you, after I beheld, I remembered, and lo, a great multitude, which no man can number, of all nations, including kindreds and people and tongues, and stood before the throne, including before the Lamb, clothed in white robe, and the palm in their hands. Interesting. We want to understand what this is. So, as we standing before him, we're in the presence. In this throne is the dominion and the power of his sovereignty. And this Lamb, which is the house of the temple of God, and is clothed, is covered with this white, in their white robe, this forgiveness of the holy regeneration of our minds, these robes, these coats, these garments, these skirts, including their palms, the righteousness is flowing in their hands, meaning in their powers. That's why it says this. Actually, I want to show you something. This is why it says this. Remember this in Deuteronomy, because we got to go back to the law and remember something. This is why it says certain things. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, but we're going to look at something in verse 25. We're going to see this here where it says that. That's why it says in there. It says, and it shall be our righteousness. Exactly what he's talking about. It should be our righteousness. If we observe and do all the commandments before the Spirit of our God, as he comparing as he have commanded us. So he's doing that. He's doing that. And I just checked the thing. And let that if that guy, that Demetrius, if they put up one more thing where they trying to give understandings, actually remove him from the channel. Because he has no right to be doing that. And I didn't give him any authority to be doing anything. So if he put that out there and he do it one more time, then hide him from the channel. Because I don't have the time for that. So making sure we understand this and going through. So you also got to look at the quote. We also have to look at the quote that also goes on. And we want to make sure we understand this. In Matthew, I want to show you something in Matthew. In Matthew chapter 8 in verse 9. to show you how the Spirit works. The Spirit, we got to understand what the Spirit does. Dang it, it did it again. Okay, it says, for I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, go, he goeth, and to another, come, he cometh. And my servant do this, and he doeth it. It's telling you how this works. Telling you how everything works according to the Spirit. Because what we got to do is understand what the authority of the Spirit is. That's the authority. The Word. You have to be obedient to it. That's why you see when you're obedient to the Word, then the Word becomes the authority on what's being spoken. Meaning this here in John 1:1. The same thing. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's why he's saying, in the beginning. That's why he's telling you this. It's all simple analogy, but we have to understand this by going around the way to really get it. To really understand this. And when you're looking at authority, we're seeing the one under authority of the obedience of light. So with the authority, meaning the authority is the freedom to license. Actually, I'm going to tell you what. I can show you one. Because he actually quotes this. And we'll find that over in John. In John chapter 8. You find this quote there. John chapter 8, verse 36. John 8:36. It says, providing that the Son thereof shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. He's telling you. He's giving you that word. That's the Spirit that's giving you that. That's why he's saying that. So once we understand those things, we can get a lot more with it. And then the same thing is why Yahushua even said this to the Syrian soldier. And when Yahushua heard this, he marveled and said unto them that followed, verily I say unto you, I have not found so great a faith, this desired expectation, no, not in Israel. No, because we don't have that, where that word can be that kind of power and that kind of effectiveness that we need. That's what needs to be in Israel. That Spirit is there. So as we sit there and we see this, then we can understand what the truth is, and that's our eyes, our understanding, and then our lifestyle has offended the word, which is the Spirit, and you learn, and then you need to, when you offend that, you pluck that out. If you're trying to get into the kingdom, because you can't go in the kingdom with two eyes. You can't. You got to go in with one eye. So if you have two eyes seeing two different things, then you need to pluck one out. Is what that's saying. That's why it's going to hold you that way. So this is the thing. So if you offend or despise even any one of the little ones, these ones that's valued ones, these temple houses, and then the messenger is going to remember this when he comes to face with his glory. Because the main thing is what he's telling you the entire time is this, and what we're going to see here as we get ready to close out. We want to see something. In John chapter 4, verse 24, we understand what God is. We understand what he is. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit, in truth. But we've been seeing this the entire time. So the Spirit is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which is the word. So when you see, which is in the book, which is JEHOVAH, 100% spirit in the spirit of this word, and we must worship, we must respect him in as the authority, as the word, as the Spirit in this book, including all truth, knowledge of God. That is why Moses was saying that. In fact, he's telling us this even here. This is why this is so important, why he tells us certain thing. Moses made certain, why it was so important, why these words cannot be changed. And we'll see this here in Deuteronomy chapter 12, picking it up at verse 32. That's why it's even important even with me. And people sit there and say, well, you tell us what these spiritual meanings are. Okay, if these spiritual meanings is not what the word says, guess what? I will burn in hell. That's clear fact. Straight, that's not even sugar. That's, if I'm sitting there and I have taught you an error according to these words that I taught, and I'm telling you, no, this word don't mean, I'm going to burn in hell for that. And ain't nobody worth going to hell for. Just to let you know. Just in case somebody, he'd do it for me. No, ain't nobody important enough for me to go to hell for. So, same thing. It says, in whosoever, and what things soever I command thee, observe and do it. Thou shalt not add thereto nor diminish from it. You can't add nothing or diminish from it. This is why that's important. So we need to understand what those words mean. Not sitting there guessing to try to get over on people. Not for that reason. That's why it's so important to make sure, as I said before, make sure you know who you're learning from to where you're going to understand it. Ye shall not add unto the word which I command thee, neither shall you diminish from it. That's Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2. That ye may keep the commandments that the Spirit of your God, which I command you. That's why this is so important. That's why this gets this way. That's why you start nailing this down. And you see the same thing. It's showing you in the beginning of this, and it also shows you at the end of this same way on which we need to know. In Revelation chapter 22, going to say, and it's going to mimic the same identical thing. We're going to find that in chapter 22, but verse 18. And he makes this clear. It says, for I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophet. So it's saying every man that heareth the spirit of the prophecy of this book. Providing any man should add unto these things, God should add unto him the plagues that is written in this book. He's clear. Oh, he is 100% clear. So the same thing is people sit there and they try to hold you for different things and they want to tell you different things. Oh, this don't mean that, that don't mean this. Okay, then you hold to that. And you want to hold to it, the same thing is, but then they want to tell you that the strong concordance that tell you a bunch of silliness, that's the right book. Really, that's interesting. And if any man should take away from the words of this book, of this prophecy, God should take away his part of the book of life out of the holy city, including from the things which are written in this book. Just like I said. So if I lie to you and give you words that don't mean what they say they mean, and I done put this here, and I done did that for all my benefit, then guess what? I am going to be removed from this book. Plain, simple, straight to the point. This is why people have a problem. Because ain't nobody worth that. Nobody. This is why it's no problem. But let's look at something. We want to see something. Here real quick. I want to sit there and show you what's going on here. Because you have men, they not only took out things out the book, you have men who took out the entire Apocrypha. So we want to remember what this spirit is. I want to show you what this spirit is going on. In John, we're going to look at something. In John chapter 3 and verse 8. John 3 verse 8. We're going to see something. In 3 and verse 8, it's letting us know of this. It says, the wind bloweth where it lists, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but can't tell which is coming. Whether it goeth, so it is. Everyone that is born of the Spirit. You're born of the Spirit, you're born of that word. You're born of that word. So the truth, so when you see the wind is illustrating the truth, which is the knowledge of God that is within you, that you have put in you through his word. And now the material things around this word don't mean anything because the wind blows. But now you can hear the word because the word that's spoken to you, you know that they are spirit, you know that they are truth. So as you sit there, you see this, it comes to no idea where it's going and where it's coming from. Including you can't even see it. But who will teach you is of the Spirit. It's the Word is Spirit. As Jacob, who is from Adam, who is not like men. And showing you the same thing as, we'll say this as we close out right here. And never forget this, but I want you to meditate on this something. I want you to see what's going on. In Sirach chapter 33, verse 10. Making sure we're clear here. All men is from the ground, including Adam, was created of the earth, of earth. It's interesting. So all men is created from the ground. All men is cursed. I don't care how we look at it, how we flip it, how we script it out. All men is created from cursed ground. And only the people that are created from the earth is dust. That is interesting. I want you to think on that. What are you created from? Because you have another piece there that you need to think on. So we understand now that the Spirit is the Word. The Word is what you learn. The Word has to dwell in you to where you can understand what was going on the entire time. So the Word was made flesh and it dwelt among us as it's dwelling among us today. And if you sit there and you want to believe in what you understand, you want to make sure that you're one of the ones that he's looking for in these last days. So hopefully you understand what the Spirit of God is. And as I said, we're getting ready to go in here and on the baptism, what we talked about, we got the baptism coming up in on next month. They're going to be in Savannah. And everybody who's looking to participate in that, we're looking for them to come in the back as well as for other announcements. But making sure you can see that link is already in the description on exactly what it is. If you're not planning on attending there, then you're cool not to come back because we're looking for them who mainly looking to come back. So with that, we have that one as well as I believe that was the one main one we wanted to get through. So with that, we're going to end it here. But hopefully you guys got some understanding there. So remember, the Spirit is the Word. That's the Spirit. So any other way you see it, I guarantee you, it'll throw you 100% off. And just to make one quick note with people before, you have some people who come over here and then they decide they want to make, they just make themselves self-made moderators. That's something that will not be tolerated here because we don't know who you are and we don't look to seek the assistance of that because we already have those things in place. So we ask you, please don't be doing that or don't be placing scripture verses in there. I don't study with people. I study myself. So please don't sit there and feel you need to put in a verse for me unless you're a moderator. Them the only ones putting the verses up. So don't just take it upon yourself. Decide you want to put some verses in there. That's something that is also not tolerated over here. Other places, they do what they do. We not them. And we over here, we act accordingly and we look for respect across the board. So with that, I say to each and every person, until next time, and we'll be going over. So if you're coming over to the Savannah baptism, you'll see the link in the description. So until next time, I say to each and every person, shalom.